Hello, good morning, and a warm welcome to you all on Enterprise Television. I am Kende Bodrin.
And I am Henry Igwebike.
As always, we are delighted to have you join us as we highlight the stories influencing Nigeria's future today. We will begin with a review of the day's newspaper headlines, then move into our future discussion. Join the conversation. You can like, follow, and interact with us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. And remember to share. Thank you. So joining us virtually is Eko John Nicholas. He is a national coordinator, Food and Farmers' Rights Campaign. He's also the coordinator campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights Ogun State chapter. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. John.
Good morning, madam. It's a pleasure to be with you once again.
Thank you so very much. We truly do appreciate your time. So let's kickstart today's discussion. We have 4 newspapers to go through today. I hope we have more than enough time to go through some of them. But let's start with the Punch newspaper for today. We have the big story: alleged coup plot. Silver. 5 others arraigned. Officers' wives seek justice.
Okay, we have PDP crisis. Court moves against Anyanwu, INEC chair.
And also we have trial. El-Rufai may miss ADC presidential primary.
Okay, still on the top strip, we have Cross River COVID-19 COVID-19 case sparks NCDC contact tracing.
All right, so we have Oyo 2027. Adelabu may resign after Tinubu meeting.
Okay, we also have gunmen kill female man-o-war officer in Oyo highway ambush.
But let's talk about let's talk about the alleged coup. Mr. John Nicholas, Dimitri Silva, 5 others arraigned. Officers' wives seek justice. Lots of people have called this coup more like a house. That it's not true. Others have alleged that it's a political gag against the opposition at this point. But what's your take on this coup thing? Do you think it is real? Do you think it was manufactured? Do you think Nigerians are truly dissatisfied with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, therefore want him out?
I say good morning to our listener at home and our viewers. Yes, on the coup thing, whether it's real or not is beside the point. I think what is important is to say that this issue of coup resurfacing over and over again after we have practiced democracy, quote and unquote, for close to 2 decades or more, shows that democracy, as it was presented by our ruling elite to Nigerians, has not actually, worked. The promised dividends of democracy, the majority of Nigerians have not been able, to benefit from it. They have not seen it in terms of quality education, well-funded healthcare, infrastructural development, just name it, agriculture and the likes of employment, across all social services. Democracy has failed the mass majority of Nigeria. And that is why people beginning to say that, it's even like the military are even better than this, our civilian, things like that. Therefore, it's better we have a coup and have military in power. But be that as it may, we think that military coup or military rule is not the answer to our problem. Regardless of, the negativity we have all experienced under the present democratic dispensation, the option is not a military coup or a military takeover. We are against it. It is an aberration. We are not going to support it under any guise. I think what is required, instead of military coup, what is needed is a socialist revolution that will take into ownership the height of the economy. We are talking of the finance, agriculture, the petroleum and the likes of them. Take it under public ownership, under democratic control of workers. through a workers' government, that is a working class alternative, with a view of liberating its resources to make it available to develop society so that society can move forward against what we are presently experiencing today. The truth has to be told. The present crop of capitalist government from Obasanjo down to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot develop society, because this social system called capitalism is built on profit and on greed. It's not meant to provide for the need of the masses, for the need of the majority. Therefore, it's incapable of advancing society. So therefore, what we advocate is a working class alternative. And we are using this opportunity again to once again call on workers, the NLC, the TUC, to float a party of the workers to wrestle power from these parasites that are apparently in power.
But isn't it what we have already?
Governance.
Mr. Eko, isn't it what we have already with the Labour Party? Don't you think the Labour Party
No.
Labour
Party is not party of the workers, sir. Labour Party is only Labour Party in name. Workers are not in that party. Workers have been excluded from Labour Party. If you are aware, most of the people that crowd themselves in Labour Party today are people who at one point or the other belong to a capitalist party, or who have failed in securing ticket to contest for electoral position in all this party. So Labour Party has become a closet for failed capitalist politicians from other parties. So Labour Party does not represent the working masses and the poor of Nigeria. Obi is not a Labour person. Because he couldn't get the ticket from PDP, that was why he adopted the Labour to actualize his ambition. So Labour Party, as it's currently constituted today, is not a party of worker and poor masses. It's either NSC and TUC take over Labour Party and make it a party of poor masses and the workers. If they cannot, then another party of masses have to be floated to contest for power. But they have
done that. You will agree with me, they've done that several times, and Nigerians have said that the TUC and the NLC have become partisan. They've become political tools. So where is the next solution at this point when if the NLC and the TUC take charge, Nigerians will come en masse and say, no, this is not your place. Just focus on the rights of workers.
Yes, when you say TUC and NLC has become partisan, quote and unquote, it is not the TUC or the NLC that has become partisan and bureaucratic. It is the leadership. There is a difference between the leadership of the TUC as represented by SIFO and NLC as presented by JIRO, which is different from the rank and file that makes up TUC and NLC. Yes, the leadership has been bureaucratized. The leadership has become partisan. The leadership has reneged on their traditional historic responsibility of liberating the workers and the poor masses of Nigeria. And they have become, the appendages of the ruling party. So therefore, when we call on workers, we are not calling on the leadership. In fact, we are even calling on workers to throw out all these leaders as represented in the NSC and the TUC if they are not prepared, to execute and carry out their historical responsibility under which they were elected. So if they are not capable, they should be, removed, and other set of leader that can take the workers to the desired destination to take over.
All right.
That was a very good one coming from you. And how might this case of concern affect public confidence in the justice system?
Please come again, ma'am.
Okay, I was asking how might this case we're talking about, how will it affect public confidence in the justice system?
Yes, public confidence in the justice system.
Yeah.
You will agree with me that even the court, the justice, they are part and parcel of the capitalist superstructure that are meant to exploit workers and poor masses. Therefore, they are not required or expected to be partial when the issue that affect worker and poor masses are, come aboard. And that is why we are where we are. And that is why you see somebody that steal a chicken, that person is sent to jail. You have people who have been confirmed, not alleged now, or allegedly or purportedly, who have been confirmed to have stolen billions. And what do you do to them? You grant them bail, you release them, you give them their passport. At the end of the day, they come back and do what they call plea bargaining. So the justice system is meant to protect the rich as against the poor. And that is why Nigerians are not deceived. The poor masses, the workers, are not deceived about the antics of the judicial system. Because the judicial system, in the first instance, is not meant, to protect, to represent the interests of the poor and workers. Yeah. Of course, once in a while, you get a judgment that seems to align, with the workers' demand and the poor masses. Is just that is just an exceptional issue, an exceptional situation. But by and large, overall, the justice system is meant to protect the rich, to protect the exploitation of the rich against the poor. That is what the justice system is, and that is why the poor masses don't have confidence in the Nigerian justice system.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's valid too. And also, what role does public opinion play in such high-profile cases like this?
Yes, public opinion. The last time I appeared on your television, I was saying that the way democracy is run in a country, Nigeria, reflects, the failure of a neo-colonial, economy like Nigeria. Okay. In Senate line, quote unquote, where some semblance of democratic ethos are being practiced, notwithstanding that they are capitalist country, public opinion does matter. Like security now, we are to be in some Senate climb. Tinubu's rating should decline, massively, and that should affect his eligibility, his electability come 2027. But in Nigeria, what does public opinion matters? Amukuton is there. Amukuton is a partisan person. It was on that partisanship he was, appointed. If public opinion matter, Amukuton by now ought to have been removed or resigned. But how will he resign when somebody who has, who has interest in 2027 is the same person, the president, who elected him? As they say he who pays the piper dictates the tunes.
Very well said. Okay, let's take a look at other matters in agriculture for a bit here. We will have a trendy story around, and that is on rice farmers. You are an advocate for farmers' rights. Rice farmers in Nigeria are complaining bitterly that there's no need for them going into business any longer because of the high import of rice into Nigeria. Rice, you would agree with me, is a staple in Nigeria, which is why we consume that a lot. But how do we balance it? A situation where a larger population of Nigeria still needs rice, but those who produce it in Nigeria cannot produce and distribute enough of that produce to Nigeria. So is it okay for us to keep importing, knowing that it is affecting local farmers in Nigeria?
Well, issue for choice. Or that not productivity of our area. Mr. Ekpenyong has one of the in terms of that never the natural endowment that is required to produce food in quantity. Nigeria is blessed with it. And yet, as we talk today, Nigeria cannot produce enough food poor food rice to feed the population. It does show how useless, and I'm not apologetic about the use of that language, how useless our ruling elite has been. Sir, there is a dam. This is a dam in Kano. That dam alone in Kano can provide irrigation that will produce rice for the entire northern country, northern states. In the south here, places like, even in Lagos, places like Itokin, in Ogun, where we have Ofada that used to produce, historically, that produces Ofada rice. All these places are fertile land that we can use to produce rice in sufficient quantity, and we have excess to export. But what are we discussing today? We are discussing, import duty, removal of import duty on rice, and farmers are complaining that it's going to affect their business. So when we criticize capitalism and we provide socialism as an option, we are not just talking. Our criticism is based on material evidence historically on what is achievable under a socialist and planned economy. In a capitalist country, Nigeria, that is built on greed and profit for a few as against the need of the masses, protectionism in terms of removal of duty will be part of it. It's part of the social anomy that we experience under capital. It's part of the capitalist crisis. Removal of import duty or protectionism is going to be a stopgap measure in order to protect locally, so that the country can have self-sufficiency. But in the case, our case today, this is not the first time import duty has been removed from rice. You will remember the rice crackling on this president became that rice produced in Nigeria. You see, as long as we have a government not prepared to invest public funds massively in health sector, in education, to guarantee the basic necessity of time for the majority, we keep coming back to this same as it is today. But protectionism, nothing is going to change, sir, and that is just it. So the farmers that are complaining, yes, they have their points are value, but the debate is also this, sir. The rice that is produced locally, because of the high cost of production, cannot compete favorably with the imported rice. Imported rice is cheaper, sir. That is the truth too. It's cheaper. So if we imported one is cheaper, how will somebody go and start buying the local one? But Mr. Henry, it will shock you to know that Nigeria rice, Ofada rice, the unpolished rice, is one of the best in terms of nutrient rich in the whole world.
Yeah.
You would have expected that a said government, a people-oriented government, would have invested in agriculture massively. Lagos alone can produce, as even when Lagos don't have the land, Lagos alone can produce rice that can feed the whole of Southwest, regardless of shortage of land in Lagos. Not to now talk of Ogun State, where we have excess of land, fertile land that can be used to produce rice in excess for import and everything. The same thing that is happening to rice, the same thing with petroleum. That you are blessed with petroleum. One of the country that has the highest quantity in the world, and yet we don't have enough. And where we have, we cannot even refine it here, and we are buying it at exorbitant prices. That is what capitalism does.
and we can't even protect it. Let me add to that. So if we keep importing rice, you know, what are the risks, you know, depending on importing this rice? What are the risks? You know,
come again?
I said if we keep importing rice, you know, every
Yes.
now and then, what are the risks for it? What are the risks of depending on, you know, importing rice?
What are the risks?
Yes.
The risks are already obvious now. We are already living with the risk. Food insecurity, loss of job, and the corollary of, because what that means is that the local producer will be thrown off. Of course, when you even say local producers, sir, the people that produces rice in Nigeria, they are the ordinary farmer that produce rice. Majority of ordinary farmers, sir, they don't have enough resources to produce rice. Government don't give them subsidy in terms of fertilizer, finance, herbicide, and the last of them. They are on their own. Meanwhile, the capitalist producer who invest massively in this rice production that are complaining now, they are in business for profit. That is why they are complaining. They have said that it's going to affect their profit. So they are merely for profit. And that there is no country in the world that run its agriculture in the name of profitability, where people will not be hungry, where food can be guaranteed. Agriculture is not just economy. Agriculture is not just science. Agriculture is social. And that is why serious country devote enough resources and invest massively in agriculture to guarantee food for the mass majority of the people. But in Nigeria, because of our neo-colonial and unproductive nature of our ruling elite, the opposite is the case here. We will keep importing rice. That is the reality. Because government is not prepared to invest in agriculture. And the sharks, the fat cats who are in the rice business, they are there to make profit. And the mass majority of the common farmers that are producing rice, they are on their own. They are not assisted. Majority of them are on subsistence farming. No country can survive this way. If we must produce rice, it has to be on a mass production. Set up industry to process this rice in terms of distribution, the export, everything. That is what a serious government should do. But in Nigeria, it's a different ball game altogether. We still import rice from Thailand. We import rice from China. We just name them. And Thailand is not as big as Nigeria. And the place where they produce Thailand, where they produce rice in Thailand, I'm not sure it's as big as the smallest state in Nigeria that they are exporting to this country. And we are here still discussing rice import, rice whatever.
It's actually quite unfortunate and more emotional that you're saying some of these things. Lagos particularly, you would agree with me, Mr. John Nicholas, that the whole expanse of Lekki, Ekpe, Aja, land was supposed to be a rice farm haven. But currently...
Thank you. Itoki, yes, including Itoki.
Exactly. But currently all of those places have become an estate where people just go fill those places, and canals are filled right now. Houses are all over the place. As much as we understand that we have deficit in housing in Nigeria, do you think that is enough excuse to take over swamps and places that should have been used to cultivate produce like rice?
Sir, when you say take over, you are generalizing it. You make it look as if it's the common people, the working class that are taking it over. It is the government that is selling off all those places. See? They are meant to be a reserve land of government, swamp land. If you go to Itoki, if you get to Itoki, those swamp land in Itoki, you will see signboard written, put on the road that the place belongs to government. It's a reserved place for government, which is what it should be. It is the same government that is selling it to housing estate shacks to invest in housing. When government has failed to establish low-cost housing to house the teeming population of Lagos residents, but what have they done? They have monetized housing. They have commodified housing. They sell off all the land to real estate agents. Mark my words, sir. Those real estate agents, some of them are also front to our political, political office holders in Lagos. They have franchise in all those places where they are the one buying or selling. And that is why we are where we are. So if we said the government has no excuse whatsoever. And during Fashola, of course, as bad as that government was, Fashola had a cause to have a business whatever with Gombe State government.
Exactly, yeah.
Gombe State was producing rice for Lagos, which was sold, at a lower cost, although within a few circles, not to the general masses, so to speak, because it didn't get to general masses. But that shows what is obtainable when you invest in agriculture and you invest in social services and you take the life of people. Serious.
Quite sad, but that is the reality we have. We just hope that the government is listening right now to ensure that food provision is there for everyone. It is the right of every human being to have enough to eat, unless maybe in war-torn areas. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not a war-torn area, but we have food insufficiency, which is really a stark reality and bad for the government. Just to let us know that Mr. John Nicholas Eko will still be here to take us on our main conversation when we return. Outrage as Nigerian man dies after arrest in Pretoria, South Africa. That in the Beat Enterprise morning. It is don't go anywhere.
I'll be right back.
It's good to have you join us yet again. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television through our main conversation for today. The Nigerian community in South Africa is mourning the death of Mr. Ekpenyong Andrew, who reportedly died after being arrested by Tshwane Metro Police in Pretoria. The Nigerian Union South Africa, called NUSA, described the incident as troubling and has called for an urgent and transparent investigation. Very
true. Now, Andrew, a motor mechanic and father of 5, was allegedly arrested on April 19 in the Booysens area while returning home from work. Earlier the day, police had reportedly searched his residence for drugs, but found nothing illegal. According to his partner, Mrs. Kaku, his body was discovered the following day at the Pretoria Central Morgue under unclear circumstances, raising serious concerns within the Nigerian community. Now, a case has been opened at Hercules Police Station and an investigating officer has been assigned.
All right, so let's get talking. We still have Eko John and Nicholas. Thank you so very much, Mr. John, for being here. Truly do appreciate you.
It's always my pleasure, sir.
All right. So let's talk about the phase and Nigerians are going through, not just in our country. On our newspapers, we were talking about how that the current administration and past administrations have deliberately, consciously refused to provide for Nigerians. Now, these same Nigerians now see, okay, let's maybe try another place to see if it's okay for us. The same host community in different parts of the world, particularly in South Africa, still and giving Nigerians peace there, with xenophobia, which is the biggest issue in South Africa, with Nigerians affected. Speak to me. Who do we blame at this point? I know you've blamed capitalism to some extent. Do we equally blame capitalism in South Africa for not giving Africans the opportunity to survive, let alone live?
Very well, Mr. Henry. Very well. Yes. we have to blame capitalism. But before we go that, we first of all say that our heart goes out to the families of those who have lost their lives in South Africa, across Africa. Immigrants from various countries in Africa, including Nigeria, Zambia, and the likes of them, who have lost their life to xenophobic attack in South Africa. We commiserate with their family. Our hearts are with them in this their difficult moment. But having said that, I think that the South African government must take full responsibility for this xenophobic attack on immigrants in South Africa. By and large, what is happening in South Africa, xenophobic attack, racism, and the likes of them, is also part and parcel of the crisis of capitalism. Let's place it in historical perspective. South Africa is a very rich country in gold. With the resources available to South Africa, if that Commonwealth was properly managed, equitably distributed, foreigners and locals in South Africa should be living like kings and queens. But the inability of the capitalist ruling elite, both in South Africa and across Africa, from NUSA in Egypt, Rwanda, Mandela in South Africa, their failure to go beyond capitalism, to go beyond colonialism, and develop society to a good economy under socialism is what is responsible for this xenophobic attack we are experiencing today. The South Africans, they are only trying to deflate anger, the right anger that the South Africans are experiencing, that is South Africa the present time. They are on and yet they don't have access to good road, they don't have access to free education, they don't have access to free health services and the likes of them. And they are asking questions. But because their leaders, the capitalist politicians in South Africa, have failed and they are not providing, reasonable explanation, they are not accountable. Instead of being accountable to the people and admitting their failures, they are deflating the anger of the people and putting it on immigrants. In South Africa, there's rise of racism, ethnicism, and xenophobic, whatever is rising in South Africa. And that is because the ruling elite in South Africa, just like any other part of Africa, has failed. So they are deflecting attention from themselves and they are putting it on the immigrant. Migration historically is a right. People have the right to go anywhere to seek for better alternative. In any case, all human beings on this earth today, we are all immigrants. We are all immigrants. Yes. So historically, it has been discovered that even human race started from Africa. And before we started migrating, and that one being fair or the other one being dark is scientifically is about the level of melanin, a pigment that each human possesses. That is what determines the color of every human race. These are historical documented facts. So every human is migrant. So, but what is happening in South Africa, as I said, is failure of capitalism. The ruling elite in South Africa have failed with the resources available to them to develop society. The ANC have betrayed the mass of South Africa. What the ANC fought for to ensure that the white ruling apartheid regime has been overthrown and the black have started ruling now, they have not gotten that advantage. That our people is now in government, we should enjoy a good life. That is not there. In South Africa, people even feel that apartheid regime is better than what they are even experiencing today. Because basic necessity of life, regardless of the Commonwealth, is not being guaranteed. It is the corporations, the multinationals in South Africa, just as you have it in Nigeria, who are taking the wealth of South African away in terms of gold, metal, all the natural resources in South Africa. It is the corporation, the multinational, that are making dollars and rand from those minerals, and they repatriate it to their various country. And while doing that, they ensure that the South African population are not employed. A lot of them are thrown into unemployment. Social services are absent, and people are living, working class are living in shanties and poor area, while the rich lives in something. So people see all these things and they are angry. And in order to not deflate that anger, the South African politician says it's the migrant that are taking over their job. And we condemn it. And we insist that the working class themselves of South Africa, just as like the Africans working class who have migrated to South Africa, they are victims of the same ruling elite. They are victims of the same capitalist system that is being practiced in South Africa. On that basis, they ought not to be attacking themselves. There should be solidarity. There should be unity of action coming together to ensure that the ruling elite of South Africa, the capitalist ruling elite of South Africa, are rooted out of power in order to develop society for everybody in South Africa to be able to enjoy the best of life. That is not happening.
That's actually quite sad, really.
Yeah. So let's look at the diplomatic impact on this. How might this now, how might this case now affect relations between Nigeria and South Africa?
Well, diplomatic relationship.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it's not going to affect diplomatic relationship between Nigeria and South Africa in favor of the working class and poor of South Africa or Nigeria. I don't know if you get that. So, regardless of what will happen in terms of diplomatic relationship, it's not going to be for the benefit of the working class of Nigeria and the working class poor of South Africa. The ruling elite across continent, they will always resolve their issue regardless of what it is, at the detriment of the working class of each country. Tinubu government might choose to summon, the ambassador of Nigeria to South Africa and bring him and recall him home. That is where it's going to end, and that is not going to end xenophobia. Before 2018, there was a planned action of South African government to say that they want to tackle xenophobia or xenophobic. They couldn't, because why? The material condition that has given rise to xenophobic attack in South Africa has not been addressed. And as long as that social, economic and material condition, as I have explained earlier, historically, that has given room to this attack is not addressed, there is not going to be a leeway. There is not going to be a solution. So, what the government of Tinubu will do, if they want to dance to the gallery, they too will try to deflate attention from their own failure at home, and probably encourage some packet of protest, or even try and say that, okay, company in South Africa, we are going to tax them, they have not been paying tax, therefore we want to repatriate them and things like that. But on the long run, it's not going to change anything, as long as the material condition that has given room to this attack is not addressed. In the first instance, with the resources available in Nigeria, if it is properly planned under democratic management of workers and the poor, and the society is developed, if Nigeria want to migrate anywhere, it will not be on the basis of economic refugee now. Maybe they will say they have not seen lion before in Nigeria, so they want to go to South African safari on tourism to go and see their lion, not to go and become an economic refugee there. But because the social condition in Nigeria, just as in South Africa, is so appalling, that is why people are migrating looking for better life now. If the South African economy is well developed, is properly developed, the society is well planned, it's enough to accommodate everybody, just in Nigeria here. And meanwhile, what is happening in South Africa is not accidental. Nigerian ruling elite that are shouting now, the same thing has happened in Nigeria during the Shagari regime. Yeah. Also, when we have the Ghana must go, we gave room to this Ghana must go back, where Ghanaians were repatriated to their country, and they were seen as people who were taking over Nigerian jobs. That was why there is no job in Nigeria. If you will recall them, in teaching, you find Ghanaians. They are the ones that will teach mathematics, teach English. They were everywhere. Yeah. You understand? But because the government wanted to deflect attention from its failure, the Sheikh Shagari's government, as at that time, when there was super inflation and the likes of them, they turned everything on the heads of Ghanaian, and Nigeria began to angry. Their anger were now directed to Ghanaian instead of directing that anger to their own government. To ensure that the government does the right thing and invest massively in all social sector in order to guarantee jobs for everybody, both immigrant and local. That was not done. And the same thing, chauvinism, that is happening in South Africa today. So we must not allow that. We want to call on the South African working class and the Nigerian working class to come together in unity. As Kaman said, workers of our country should unite. They should all unite together in solidarity to begin to fight this evil of capitalism as represented by the politicians of South Africa, the politicians of Nigeria, and the politicians, capitalist politicians across Africa. That is the only way out.
Yes, so that is the only way out, and we truly do appreciate your time, Mr. Ekpenyong Andrew. We truly do appreciate your time once more for your insights and helping us make sense. But just before we let you go, in 60 seconds, if you may, you are a campaigner of socialism and hoping that most countries would, of course, relegate capitalism to the background. I would love you to educate us, if you may, in 60 seconds. Is there any country in the world that practices 100% of socialism? If there is, how do you think the people are faring there? And do you think socialism in the current world that we find ourselves is the best bet without capitalism being there to help it do better?
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry. We will answer the question from where you started. First is to say that there is no country in the world today that is practicing socialism, left alone practicing socialism 100%. There is no country that is currently practicing socialism. When I mean socialism, I mean that the commanding height of the economy being nationalized and placed under the control and democratic management of workers and the professional in that area to liberate resources to make it available for the development and growth of the society. There is no country that is presently doing that. Even Cuba, under Fidel Castro, one of the anathema of the Cuba Fidel Castro was that the working class were not in charge of the commanding height of the economy. But be that as it may, because the Cuban economy was planned and the commanding height was taken into state control, Cuba was able to develop their health. They were able to develop their education. In fact, Cuban health sector is one of the best in the whole world as we speak today, notwithstanding US blockade as we are talking now. China that we are all looking for, we are all looking towards today now. China was built, the economy of China that we are seeing today was built on a planned economy, although a deformed socialist economy, which was tailored towards the Stalin economy in USSR under Joseph Stalin as at that time. But be that as it may, as even when workers were not in control, because the economy was state control, get my whatever, there was no capitalism, there was no capitalist investment as at that time. It was state control, it was not open up for capitalism. So on that basis, that economy was planned. That was what laid the foundation of the development we are presently experiencing in China today. Notwithstanding the fact that the present ruling elite in China are opening up the economy for capitalism, under state capitalism now. So the point I'm making is this: there is no meeting point between light and darkness. Capitalism represents darkness for humanity, and socialism